Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to the last Wednesday story sharing, the sharing of inspiring stories from the Jin Shin Jyutsu community around the world. This will move bit by bit to a Friday where we will just have one session a week, and we will bring in these stories as much as possible. Anyway, my name is Terry Matthews. I work remotely on behalf of the Mary Burmeister Jin Shin Jyutsu Institute, the source of the original Jin Shin Jyutsu as taught by Jiro Murai to Mary Burmeister. I have to tell you, it is not a substitute for medical care. It is a complement. What we do with Jin Shin Jyutsu is we're placing our hands left and right of the frontal part of the body, the spine area, on what we call 26 safety energy locks. Not all at once, folks. There are 26 left and right of the spine. As we place our hands on these safety energy locks, which, by the way, are the size of the palm of your hand, we're allowing energy to move more congruently through your body, through your energy, through your nervous system, through the spine, to feed all the organs and cells in your body. We block that with our mindsets, attitudes, beliefs, diet, you name it. The different dimensions which we play with in this world can sometimes get disharmonized. Anyway, that's a very broad summary of Jin Shin Jyutsu. I'm very happy to be here with you today. And for this last Wednesday event, I have some mystery presenters. And I'm just going to raise my fingers and go, today's mystery presenters are...
Hello.
Hi.
Welcome, Amy and Tate.
Thank you.
Yeah, you know what? I'm going to shut up. I'm going to let you guys introduce yourself. You know more about yourself than I do. Over to you.
Go ahead, Tate.
Hello, everyone. My name is Alfred Tate Duus. I have several aliases. I like to go by Tate. I'm coming to you from Eugene, Oregon.
And I'm Amy, and I'm Tate's wife, and we generally practice together, much like in our classes when we do triads. Tate and I are both with our clients at the same time. And I am coming to you from the big island of Hawaii. So aloha.
Aloha. So it's interesting that this webinar falls at a pretty unique time for Amy and I in life and in our practice. We're in the process of relocating our practice to the Big Island from Eugene, where we see both humans and animals in our practice. And it turns out, after doing the math, that this is our 9th year of having our official Jin Shin Jyutsu private practice in Eugene, Oregon. And those of us who are familiar with the safety energy locks know that the 9, safety energy lock 9, represents the end of a cycle and the beginning of a new cycle. So I just found that interesting in going over my notes of things to share, that here we are ending and beginning a new cycle 9 years after we opened our practice. So I'll start with the story first. It's not a sensational story, and that's one of the reasons I'd like to share it. I feel like oftentimes in our experience, in our practice, we have clients, and we've all seen the clients that come to us looking to be quote unquote fixed, looking for that miracle session that's going to turn their life around, or looking for that miracle pill. And I'm here to tell you today that for me, I live by Mary's words when she says, the session begins when you get off the table. It is the gift that Mary has given us, Jin Shin Jyutsu, self-help. And it is, in my opinion, where the meat and the juice of this beautiful art are held, in the self-help aspect. So I'm going to share with you a little story about my experience with self-help. Firstly, I was introduced to Jin Shin Jyutsu actually working in Guatemala in the Peace Corps. And in my 2 years there, I was gifted a fascinating book. Some of you may have heard of it. It's called The Touch of Healing by Alice and David Burmeister. And this is just a great book, a really easy read, a fun read. And it really breaks the art down for us in layman's terms, so that anybody who picks up the book, from no matter what background, experience level, is able to start to learn about the art of Jin Shin Jyutsu and learn how to help themselves with the art. So I was gifted this book in Guatemala in 2001, and I thought it was cool, and it wasn't too long before it started collecting dust on my shelf, or in my bags as I moved around the world. Fast forward several years, and Amy and I are living both together, actually, in the same space in Colorado, the mountains of Colorado. We were both snowboard instructors there. That's how we met, and the rest was history. But we actually found ourselves in the first year of our relationship as a couple, and we were doing the distance thing. We were living about 3 hours apart. So I was with Amy one weekend, and she was living in a relatively rustic cabin in Berthoud Falls, Colorado. Lots of snow out there, lots of cold. Her cabin ran on wood heat, and so of course I was there over the weekend, and it was first thing in the morning, and we're getting ready to stoke the fire for the day. And I'm out on the front porch chopping wood in my slippers, because I'm told those are the preferred foot apparel for chopping wood.
He's joking.
The best protection you can get for your feet when swinging a heavy metal sharp object around. As chance would have it, I was swinging a 9-pound maul, which is just a really heavy implement for breaking wood in half. And it happened to be a dull instrument that glanced off of the wood and did a beeline right for the inside of my left ankle. I went down to the ground like a sack of potatoes, not a sound, just boom. Amy was inside, and she happened to see me through the window, out of the corner of her eye, drop out of the frame of the window. So she hurried out, and she helped me up off the deck and helped me into her living room, onto her couch, where I continued to be for essentially the next month. I moved from her couch to the bed, to the couch, to the bed. It was quite painful. We were several hours from a hospital. I didn't have health insurance anyway, so what I did have in the medicine cabinet was The Touch of Healing. So we got into the book, and it's great the way that it spells it out for you. Like I said, you don't have to know anything. I looked in the diagram in the book where it has all the safety energy locks, locations, and then below it gives you different projects that the safety energy locks work with. So I located the ankle, and there were several different safety energy locks that I was able to choose from to work with that energy of the ankle. One of those was, and I'll ask you now to join with me in self-help. I forgot to do this at the beginning of the story. I would like everybody to hold their 17. It is right here on the pinky side of the wrist. And again, like Terry said, these areas are the size of your fists. So just a general grab of that side of your wrist is going to connect with the 17. Just be with that and breathe, switching back and forth from one side to the other if that's comfortable. Spending more time if one of them's talking to you while I finish my story. So, Safety Energy Lock 17, there it is in the touch of healing as a helper for ankle projects. And it said the opposite Safety Energy Lock 17 from the project area, the project ankle. So I'm a Capricorn. I like to find the logic in things. And I just, not having ever had any training in Jin Shin Jyutsu, this was a stretch for me. Okay, my ankle hurts. My ankle is broken. This book is telling me to hold my opposite wrist. Okay, I believe it. I believe the people who wrote this book. So this is where I spent my time. If I wasn't crocheting in that month, then I was holding one of my 17s. And don't you know that my ankle didn't feel better right away. From the very beginning, it was throbbing. I had full range of motion, so I was confident in feeling like I didn't need medical, quote unquote, Western medical help, but I needed to give myself time. And time it took. Like I said, it wasn't an immediate miracle. Hold on to the 17 for a day and your ankle will be healed. But in this time I was working carpentry. I was helping two other guys restore and rebuild an old 1800s log cabin up in the heights of the Colorado mountains, 11,000 feet elevation. And it happened to be that we were in the portion of roofing this big house shortly before I hurt myself. And so little by little, over the next month, while I sat there on Amy's couch, and she supported me in every way she could, my ankle started to get better. And by the end of that month, I was able to go back to work, walking around on steep grade roofs, carrying heavy materials, and really just putting my body through physically laborious tasks. So I guess the point of my story is we all would love to have that miracle experience, that aha flash that happens for us in a session, but more times than not, in my experience, the more common story in Jin Shin Jyutsu is that subtle shift in energy that's essentially unnoticeable until you start looking back over time and tracking where you started with your project and where you've come to. And so I just encourage people with that story to, if you don't get that magical moment, that miracle moment that you are looking for to be quote unquote fixed, just keep doing your homework. Like we tell people, it's a daily practice. It's a cumulative practice, just like brushing our teeth. If we brush our teeth every day, then we're going to get thumbs up from the dentist.
Yeah, and you'll have less work to do when you go into their office.
Right? And so just in the same way with Jin Shin Jyutsu, a daily practice, living that art, connecting with your safety energy locks and your subtle energy on a daily basis is going to help to keep the doctors away. It's going to help to keep the balance in place. So I have another story, but I'm going to pass it over to Amy now so I don't hog all the time.
So I'd like us to shift from holding that 17, Safety Energy Lock 17, which is connecting us with our intuition and a whole host of other great things. I'd like to shift into looking at our thumbs and connecting with our thumbs. Let's see, I believe that is book 3 of Mary's self-help books. She says that the thumbs are like leaders in a parade. And I think that that is fantastic. Tate's oldest sister was a
Majorette,
a nationally accredited baton twirler, national champion baton twirler. And so when I think of my thumbs, I think of, all the amazing tricks that she could do with her baton and just keeping everybody's attention on her while the rest of the band does their thing and supports her show, right? So our thumbs are really, they're like leaders in the parade. And Mary says, if the thumb is not in rhythm, then all that follow that leader will get out of step and out of harmony. Thumbs are very important for the harmonious functioning of the whole body. Initially, when I started my journey with Jin Shin Jyutsu, I was experiencing chronic nausea, and I didn't have any real logical connection with why this was happening. And much like what Tate is saying, after several years of doing my stomach flows every single day, sometimes 2 and 3 times a day, that chronic nausea finally started to subside. And I started looking back and thinking about when I was a little girl and I would be in spaces that were usually inside with a lot of people. By the end of the time with all of those people, I would start to feel kind of yucky. And when I was little, I always just thought it was because I was tired, it was the end of the day. And now with this little bit of information I have about how everything is connected and we are all one, I can start to understand a little better about how that stomach function energy is working with my boundaries and really helping me to strengthen this idea of where I am versus where everybody else is. And where do we meet? Where's that relationship? And how much of them gets to come here into where I am? That stomach function energy, along with the spleen, is working with the energy of Saturn. And so we think about Saturn with the rings around it, and we have that structure and we have that framework within ourselves to contain our energy and really help us to appreciate our limits and really work with our boundaries. And like I said, now looking back after several years of being a practitioner, I can finally start to see that, okay, this whole stomach thing, I was just getting overloaded. By the end of the day, I was full because I had no concept of boundaries, and my energy was just wide open to everybody all the time. And so I was going through my day-to-day stuff, and I was like a magnet. I was just, soaking up everything from around me. And so this experience of daily self-help, holding my thumbs, doing the anchor step for the stomach flow, this is just, it's been so profound. And just like what Tate was saying, the very first time I was starting to practice all of this, well, things didn't get better immediately, but I could tell that something was different. I could tell that there was the possibility of this shifting happening. And that leads me into a quick little anecdote about one of our clients that we've been seeing now for over 3 years. She called us up one night, and she actually had purchased a Groupon and was wanting to set up a session. And so we set it all up. And then the night before her session, she contacts us and she says, I am really not well and I cannot make it to our session that we have scheduled tomorrow. And Tate and I talked about it, and we talked with her about it, and we said, we understand where you're coming from. We hear you. And we also want to offer the idea that this is actually the best time for you to have a session, is when you are really just at the bottom of the barrel, because you have no idea how else to support yourself. So she reluctantly decided to come and stick with her appointment, and she showed up to our office, and same thing. At the end of the session, was there this miraculous, whoa, you're healed? No, but she felt better. She could tell that something different had happened. She wanted to sort of sit on it overnight and digest a little bit. And the next day she called us, and she was arguably feeling better than she had felt in a long time. This woman was having a severe pancreatic attack. And if you don't know anything about that, it's pretty extreme inflammation of the pancreas that is caused by several things. But one of the things that causes it is large solid masses in the gallbladder. And what we found over several weeks of working with her is that she did, in fact, have really large gallstones. And she had a slew of specialists that she was working with, and they all wanted her to have her gallbladder removed. And she was not interested in that. And she was hopeful that working with a team of individuals who were approaching her project from different avenues, that would prove to be successful. Well, fast forward, and over the course of about 6 months, eventually she went back to see one of her specialists, and they did a scan of her gallbladder, and wouldn't you know it, the mass had turned to sludge. So it was not gone yet. The project was not gone, but it was definitely, obviously, visibly improving. And then again, fast forward a few more months, and she tells us, I've gotten rid of most of my specialists because they weren't really doing much aside from charging me a bunch of money and making me worry about this huge label that has been put on me.
And wanting to remove my organs. So then an interesting side note is that through the course of our relationship, we also found out that she had a history of breast cancer about 20 some years prior to meeting us. And breast cancer led to a mastectomy. And what I found really interesting is the idea of accumulation and that second depth project. And so, okay, we're going to remove the organ or the tissue that is bad or damaged, and yet the energy still persists. It's like removing the symptom is not removing the cause. And by working through the flows and, coming to see us for Jin Shin Jyutsu sessions, she was finally beginning to address the cause of those accumulation projects. And it's very interesting. And I am so grateful for this experience, so grateful to have been connected with this art through the touch of healing that Tate had when we first met. And, at this point, this particular client, she went from extremely, dangerously thin when we first met her. She was on a diet of juice and bone broth. She couldn't eat any solid foods. And now she is more
of a normal weight. She also couldn't lie down, because when she would lie down, the other organs would be pressing on her gallbladder and her pancreas and causing her extreme pain, which means she wasn't really sleeping. So it just was like the snowball effect. And now at this point, she's back to more of a normal diet. She still has some restrictions on how she can relax, but ultimately, definitely moving forward, feeling better. And with us transitioning to the Big Island, she is also working with us in transitioning to distance sessions. And so far, there has been some really wonderful successes with that experience for her. And we're looking forward to continuing that work with her. Ideally, we're also going to be moving into figuring out the best way to share our practice remotely with animals as well as people. And that is certainly still in the beta stage. We're still sort of having those conversations, but I see that it won't be too far down the line that's going to happen as well. And Tate, I don't know if you have anything to add to that. Oh, we can't hear you. Hey, we can't hear you.
Oh, I must have gotten muted because of a lot of technical noise. Thanks, Tate. So just adding to this client's story, she would tell you that Amy and I saved her life.
Mm-hmm.
As Jin Shin Jyutsu practitioners, we all know better than that.
She saved her own life.
Really, the props, the congratulations go to the client, because as Mary tells us, and as I opened with,
mm-hmm.
the session starts when you get off the table. And if this
Mm-hmm.
client hadn't been going home and doing her homework, some people like us to call it dessert, we call it homework, our self-help that we give to our clients. If she hadn't been doing her homework, then she would not be finding herself in such a great state of balance that she is today.
Yeah, and at this point, she's still coming to see us either in our office up until the time we closed our office, which was just a couple of weeks ago, either in our office or remotely. We've been connecting with her, I would say on average, 3 times a month, sometimes a little more, sometimes a little less, depending on everything that's going on. But she's definitely a shining example of, like Tate said, doing your homework and really jumping all in and embracing this idea of there's got to be something better. There has to be something more than just going under the knife and having somebody cut out my organs. They're there for a reason.
So often when we're presented with a big life project, it's usually in a physical form, something's broken, or a major illness, or a mental form, emotional form.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all that we're looking at, is when that showed up. But really, if we start to dig into that project and look for the cause, not the symptom, then we're always going to find an imbalance in the subtle energy, which can take years for that imbalance to accumulate to the point where it finally manifests as something physical or mental, emotional that we're going to recognize. And so in just the same way that it takes time for us to build our projects that we're working on, it often takes time to take them apart and to find that balance again. So we just can't encourage folks enough to keep with that daily practice, as simple as it may be. Holding your fingers while you breathe, and I'm just holding my fingers and breathing. I don't know what this is doing. I don't feel anything.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's okay. You don't have to feel anything. You don't have to know what you're doing. The art is an innate intelligence within all of us, and it's going to go to the place of need. And it's going to go subtly more times than not. So
And
stick with
I'd also like to echo what Terry was saying in the very beginning. This particular client is still connecting with her Western medicine specialists. And by welcoming the practice of Jin Shin Jyutsu into her life, she is complementing that Western medicine expertise. You know, I think that it's really important for us each as individuals to recognize what's going to work best for our situation. And what works really great for me isn't necessarily going to work really great for Tate or Terry or any of you who are on this call. So along with the idea of this being the art of living, really embrace that. I encourage everyone to really think about how you can make your life be the most beautiful piece of art for you. And in that way, you are embodying the art of living. You are Jin Shin Jyutsu. You are, I am. I know myself. It is.
I could listen to you guys forever. Folks, I can see by the comments in the chat room, you're loving this, aren't you? Yeah. I mean, the pearls of wisdom coming through here, I don't think I have to repeat them, do I? This is just, to me, solid. This is the experience of people that have begun an art and walked with the journey with themselves and with other people, and have realized the uniqueness to themselves and to others, and understood that, yeah, sometimes there isn't an overnight, sometimes there is.
I was going to say sometimes there is, and that's fantastic.
Yeah.
But, don't shoot yourself because you're feeling like, wow, this isn't working for me after one day.
And, the perspiration that you guys have let, come out as a result of working with people and helping them understand about this aspect and the patients. And can I get something clear for myself? Do you guys generally work on the same client at the same time, or do you? Oh, you do.
Just like in class.
Yeah. Hey, people. This is great. I generally don't. Like Tate mentioned in class, we do. I'm not going to ask you guys to extrapolate whether working, 2-on-1 has shortened the time of healing. I don't know, but I do know that when there are more than one gathered, and 2 or more are gathered, whatever, the frequency of the energy field does increase. So if any of you out there are looking for ways of increasing the frequency of the energy field you do your work in, maybe work with somebody else or with a partner, someone that knows the art of Jin Shin Jyutsu. Oh boy. Hey, have you guys, is there any questions? I think someone earlier on asked, I generally prefer not to give ballpark answers when someone says, what did you use to dissolve gallstones? But someone asked, and if you're prepared to answer that one, go right ahead.
Well, that will have us jumping into the deep end a little bit of the Jin Shin Jyutsu pool. And certainly there was not one flow that we concentrated.
Every session, listen to the pulses. That tells you what the body is needing right in that moment. Because what do I know what's going on in there? Listen to the pulses.
Pulses always first. It's the best way that we can take our diagnostic brain out of the way, our limited vision, and allow the body to let us know what it needs. That being said, we do have a lot of tools for our logical minds to get lost in, and one of those is the lumbar circle, and certainly use that a lot as far as relieving the burden from the gallbladder, supporting the gallbladder, working to harmonize the major organ function energy that is the cause of the project with the gallbladder. So, yeah, definitely diversify your routes in to the project. That's the way that we've found to be most beneficial, and you know, not pigeonholing the person or ourselves to what we think might be going on or what we think might help bring balance to the project.
Right, because if we look at the pathways that these different energy flows take through the body, there are a lot of stops along the way. And as someone who is, as a practitioner, I see that we are riding on that train. We're not the driver of the train. We're riding on the train, and it's up to us to be open and to be allowing whatever gets on and off of the train to influence how we proceed with this session. You know, we'll start off the session by listening to the pulses, and then during the course of the session, oftentimes there are things that come in during that initial flow or the next flow that will say, hey, I could use a little support as well. I need a little TLC over here also. And so that will ultimately dictate how the session progresses. And when in doubt, there are some really fantastic flows that we can do that are just overall harmonizers. You know, we've got the 5, 6, 7, 8 flow. We've got the spleen flow. We've got the 10 flow, the 13 flow. I could list all of them, really. So yeah.
Have we skirted that answer enough for you?
Oh yeah.
And I think actually,
I don't see Nancy saying anything, so maybe she's like.
Well, and I think actually what has really supported Tate and I becoming a lot more open and allowing and flexible with our practice is working with animals, because with animals, we're definitely in a space of needing to get quiet and really needing to be present with that being in a way that most likely they don't have that experience with the other people that are in their lives. And to really just, like Tate said, to really just listen and observe and be with that being. And that has transferred into our human practice, definitely. Tate, would you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, beautiful. Animals are great teachers.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. You know, when Adele brought that aspect of Jin Shin Jyutsu into the animal kingdom, that was a great blessing for all of us. And you know, folks, are you folks, I know you're in the middle of a move here, but are you folks planning on doing anything in the near future you want to talk to people about?
Definitely. We are working on building our online teachable platform. And ideally within the next couple of months, we'll have something that we're able to offer to the general public. And as a side note, Tate is fluent in Spanish. And as such, we are working specifically to open up opportunities for Spanish speaking folks who would like to get a little further into this art. Currently, we have, as far as Adele's faculty is concerned for the animal work, we have a handful of folks who are doing some really great things with the online community, a few in-person courses, but given the current situation, that hasn't really been a focal point of what's happening. But within the animal faculty, Tate is our Spanish speaker. And as such, we're hopeful that with the help of some of the other organizers who have worked with the Scottsdale office in the past, we're hopeful that we'll be able to connect with our Spanish-speaking constituents, I guess you could say, to share the animal side of the practice a little more.
Let me interrupt you guys. In case I get dumped here, I have 8% left on my battery.
It is time to say au revoir.
Yeah. Too much talking, stomach flow.
No, I just want to, there's going to be a recording of this. I will get to it as soon as I can. So, folks, you should get it from Webinar Jam, but it'll be on YouTube, and it'll say with Tate and Amy, something like that. And it'll be the last one for Wednesdays. So, you can't go wrong. It'll be the last Wednesday. But thank you, guys. This was truly a wonderful way to bring this Wednesday series to a conclusion. But the journey continues. And, in the future, Fridays, I'd love to have you guys back telling us how you're getting on with your online community. And I just want to say the Hispanic community, I think, may well be undernourished with Jin Shin Jyutsu. I think it's a conversation that's gone on a long time, maybe too long. So thank you for reaching out to them. Okay, everybody, I know it's hard to say cheerio, but it's au revoir, okay?
Thank you so much for having us, Terry. Thank you to everybody on the call. We appreciate you all so much.
You're welcome. So it was beautiful. So thank you, everybody. I will be here myself on Friday, and I'll see you then. Don't worry, we will continue stories. It will just be on a Friday. So until then, take care, everybody. Be safe, be well, be smart, and follow your heart.
And breathe.
Oh, yes. Breathe.
Don't forget that part.
Breathe. And then follow your heart. Okay. Take care, everyone. I'm just going to click us off, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye now.